one of the things that's very obvious about Tibetan Buddhism is that there's a big emphasis on the role of the master. And so much so, that some of the earliest Westerners characterize Tibetan Buddhism as Lamaism, So big emphasis on the role of the master. And it's even more so in Dzogchen, because the role of the master in Dzogchen is to directly introduce you to your enlightened nature. The word direct is very important. Introduce you to your enlightened nature. So, you can study a lot, and some of the branches of Tibetan Buddhism are very focused on study, and it can be helpful. You can study Dzogchen. It can be helpful. I think it's helpful. It can give you ideas of how to approach things, but that's only on the level of understanding. It's not on the level of direct experience. Understanding is not direct experience. That it's like the difference between knowing that honey is sweet and tasting honey. Right? Knowing that honey is sweet is one thing, but actually tasting honey is a direct experience. And I know some people, a few people, very few people, whose understanding of Dzogchen is almost flawless, but they're still stuck. They have the understanding, but they're still stuck. I can say more about that if you like. But so trying to explain this thing about the direct experience that you get from a teacher, it's more like a feeling than an idea. Do you understand? It's not an idea. It's not a concept. It's direct. It's personal. It's in you. It's your experience. And the great example of this is Tibetan Buddhism is filled with these examples, but one of the ones that I really like, because it's a very undramatic and normal kind of way, is when Patra Rinpoche, who is the master, introduced Nyoshul Lungtok, who is his student, to the nature of mind. So Nyoshul Lungtok had studied with Patra Rinpoche for many years. He did his nundra more than once, and he understood Dzogchen really well, he knew about the 4 chogyas, the 3 meos, tekcho, the postures of Togyal, but it was only on the level of understanding. And he told Patra Rinpoche this. He said, I understand it, but I don't really get it, And at dusk one evening, they were camped on a high hill, a grassy high hill above Dzogchen Monastery in Tibet. And the sun had set, the stars had started to appear in the sky, very quiet. You can imagine what the scene is like. And Patra Rinpoche called Nyoshul Lungtok over, and he says, sit down here with me. And so they sat together, And by this time, Nyoshul Lungtok and Patra Rinpoche were actually great friends. One of the difficulties that I've had with masters is that I tend to create an aloofness, of putting the master on a pedestal, But this wasn't the case here. That they were just great friends, And Patra Rinpoche says to us, you know this story, but I'll tell it anyway. One of my favorite stories. So Patrick Rinpoche said, he said, you told me you didn't really get this Dzogchen thing, you know? And Patrick Rinpoche said, yeah, you know. And there was a little kind of, Nyoshul Lungtok said, yeah, I didn't get it, you know. And it was a little bit in Nyoshul Lungtok's, there was a little bit of like anticipation. He thought, oh, there's something going to happen. So the lion there, you know. And Patrick Rinpoche, he says to Nyoshul Lungtok, he says, it's really quite simple, he says. It's very simple, you know. He says, do you hear the dog barking down in Dzogchen Monastery? And Nyoshul Lungtok said, yeah. And he says, do you see the stars in the sky? And Nyoshul Lungtok said, yes. And Patrick Rinpoche says, that's it. And at that moment, Nyoshul Lungtok had the direct experience of his enlightened nature. Very simple, nothing dramatic. He had the direct experience of his enlightened nature. So what was that like? So usually, you know, when you think that, you know, you gain something special when you get enlightened. That wasn't the case with Nyoshul Lungtok. What happened? Everything just fell away. Everything just fell away. Let's do it again. Everything just fell away. Holding on to things as real fell away. Holding on to things as not real fell away. Complete openness. No position at all. No position at all. Not even the idea of me. Just complete openness. Grasping ended. The dog barked again. The stars were still in the sky. All that had happened was everything, all the grasping, had just simply fallen away. Becoming very simple. Just being. Just being. And actually, it's probably not that difficult. So, very important that you're comfortable. Your body should be at ease. You should be like Nyoshul Lungtok, sitting on this grassy hilltop, just completely relaxed. So, body, whatever way it is, you don't have to be in a particular posture, you know, the sevenfold posture of Vajrayana. Just your body at rest, naturally as it is. It's called Ryo Choga. By the way, I don't tell you the terms for some of the things that I discuss, because if I did, some people might understand. Some other people outside of our group might cotton on to what I'm revealing, which might get me into trouble. Anyway, so body just relaxed, at ease. And mouth slightly open. And you just notice your breathing. Very simple. Breathe through your mouth is better. You just notice your breathing. That's not hard to do, is it? You just notice your breathing. And in particular, you feel how you feel when your breath leaves your body. There's a natural quality of ease, of relaxation when you breathe out. It's why the sound ah you let out when you sit down and relax, particularly for an old person like me. Ah. Nothing intense. You're just feeling your breath. Just feeling particularly the ease of the out breath. Now your eyes are open, but you're not actually looking at anything. You see everything. You're not blurring out or anything. You see everything. It's clear, but you're not looking at anything. Very natural, awake. And as you notice, as you continue like this, your breath naturally slows down. There's less agitation in your being. And in particular, you might notice that just as you finish breathing out, there's a little pause, a little gap, an openness. Sometimes, when you breathe out like that, your breath just kind of stops naturally before you breathe in again. You're not causing your breath to stop. It's just this deep release, deep relaxation. The breath goes out. There's a pause. The breath comes back in. And as you're like this, you'll notice whatever thoughts appear in your mind, you leave them alone. Not because you're leaving them alone, it's because you're at ease, in a state of openness. There's no guards. There's no wardens of the prison. You just allow everything to come and go. And in the words of Patrick Rinpoche, that's it. And you know, this is the odd thing. This is our natural condition. This never leaves us. Even when we go through all the shit, like all the confusion, all the suffering, this being is there all the time. It's completely reliable. You know? Like one of the things I found, is, it can lose your cool. You can get angry. Gone. Why? Empty appearance. Okay.